When I married Tom, I assumed his life, and it was, okay, so the lights were going to be on, the bills were going to be paid. Really great.
Erika Jayne's life saga and legal troubles are absolutely blowing up online as the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star is defending her ex-husband who embezzled funds that were meant for the families of individuals who died in a horrific plane crash. There were also accusations that the couple only got divorced to try and hide funds by separating bank accounts and scattering the money. Erika herself came out and defended her husband, instead accusing the victims of lying about being paid out in the court case. A documentary about the legal issues was released last year documenting Erika's role in the embezzlement, and yet she continues to choose her husband over the families of the victims who were not in fact paid out. Today we're covering Erika Jayne. Tomorrow though, you decide. Let us know in the comments down below who you think we should cover on the next episodes of Where Are They Now. While you're down there, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it so we can keep making more just like it. Let's get into it. Erika Jayne is from Atlanta, Georgia and was raised by her single mother. After graduating high school, Erika decided to move to New York City and try and strike it out on her own and create a career as an actress. Her first two on-screen performances were non-speaking roles in Law & Order. She also had roles in 2 indie movies. While living in New York, Erika first met a man named Thomas Zizzo. He was a DJ at a club that she had frequented, and the couple got along so well that they would end up getting married in 1991. They married in St. Patrick's Cathedral, and shortly after she gave birth to her first son, Thomas Zizzo Jr. Their relationship, however, would only last 5 years before Erika would divorce Thomas and relocate to Los Angeles to pursue her new dream of becoming a pop singer. Erika released her first single called Roller Coaster in 2007. The song did pretty well actually and placed #1 on the Billboard Hot Dance Club Play charts. After the positive reception of the single track, Erika released her first album called Pretty Mess 2 years later. It's her only album, but she has released 9 singles since the album, with the earliest being in 2018. In January 2000, Erika married Thomas Girardi. He's a founding member of the Los Angeles-based law firm that typically represents plaintiffs against major corporations. So typically he would be representing an individual who wanted to sue companies like McDonald's or Boeing or whatever. His firm had one massive case before they eventually got into trouble. The case was the inspiration for the movie Erin Brockovich starring Julia Roberts. The lawsuit itself occurred when residents of a desert community called Hinckley, California sued Pacific Gas and Electric. They were alleging that residents were getting cancer and other diseases because the company was contaminating the drinking water in the town by leaking gas from a pumping station. The residents of the town ended up winning the lawsuit, and the company agreed to pay them $460 million. The case itself was revolutionary and caused a mass drinking water testing campaign throughout the entirety of the United States. Thomas Girardi himself stated, quote, "That particular case revolutionized people's thinking about all the toxic things they're exposed to." To me, I don't think there's anything more heroic than using a fancy law degree to represent small-time entities who are fighting injustice in large corporations. I think that's why it's so heartbreaking to see someone who was doing actual good fall to greed at the cost of the victims of a horrific accident. Back to Erika, however. While she and Tom were married, she joined the cast of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for the show's 6th season in 2015. She made a name for herself as someone who enjoyed overt opulence, excessive glam, and held an extremely icy and dramatic demeanor. She was certainly not out to make any friends. She continued to release singles while on the reality television show and became famous in the club scene for employing her, quote, "pat the puss" dance moves during live performances, which is exactly what it sounds like. Now, fast forward to November 3rd, 2020, when Erika Jayne files for divorce from her 81-year-old husband after more than 2 decades of marriage. They cited irreconcilable differences. It came as a total shock to Real Housewives fans because nothing really seemed wrong with the couple. Remember that later. They are still appearing on the television show together and seemed pretty much as close as ever. In a statement released by Erika, she says, quote, "After much consideration, I've decided to end my marriage to Tom Girardi. This is not a step taken lightly or easily. I have great love and respect for Tom and for our years and the lives we've built together." 1 week after she filed for divorce, Jayne requested that her ex-husband pay both spousal support and all of her legal fees. It was also during this time that it was revealed by Erika that Tom had been having a years-long affair while they were married. But once the divorce happened, things got super messy very quickly. In December 2020, a law firm that had worked with Girardi representing the families of those killed in the 2018 Lion Air Flight 610 crash filed a lawsuit in Chicago Chicago federal court, alleging that Girardi and his firm owed, quote, tens of millions of dollars to clients, lenders, co-counsel, settlement administrators, and experts, to name only a few. The suit also reportedly claimed that Jayne and Girardi's divorce was a, quote, sham attempt to fraudulently protect Tom and Erika's money from those who seek to collect on debts owed by Tom and his law firm. Although Erika has always outright denied that the divorce was to hide money, her lavish and insane lifestyle being documented on Real Housewives became a bit tainted when you know that it was very likely funded by the families of victims of a plane crash. In June, the ABC News special The Housewife and the Hustler brought to light a new lawsuit that alleged that Girardi transferred $20 million in loans from his law firm, Girardi to Jayne's company EJ Global. On The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Jayne claims that she has no knowledge of the transfer, but the allegation certainly doesn't help rumors that their divorce may not have been what it appeared to be. In July, a judge ruled that Girardi's embezzlement victims were authorized to pursue money from Jayne. In 2021, Tom and his firm were forced to file for bankruptcy after a group of creditors claimed that the firm owed them millions. Their assets were frozen, and a probe found that he had, quote, misappropriated at least $2 million in client funds that were due to the families of those killed in the crash of a Boeing jet in Indonesia. Because he's old and due to the stress of the whole thing, Tom was placed under a temporary conservatorship, like the Britney Spears thing, because his brother filed a claim in court alleging that Tom's condition had, quote, sadly deteriorated to the point where he cannot care for himself without assistance. On March 9th, the State Bar of California determined Girardi was no longer eligible to practice law. After a cognitive assessment in late February, Girardi was diagnosed with late-onset Alzheimer's. Throughout the saga, Jayne dutifully filmed the 11th season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. News of Jayne's divorce and the subsequent lawsuit broke early during the filming of season 11, unexpectedly teeing off the drama for the rest of the season, which saw Jayne leave Girardi and move out of their Pasadena estate, listed for a reported $13 million, into a rental costing a reported $7,500 a month. Although she was named in the lawsuit, while on the show, Jayne repeatedly denied involvement in any alleged financial scam involving Girardi, and at one point telling co-star Sutton Strack that she was, quote, kept away from the books. All the while, she simultaneously defended her ex-husband against the season's main skeptics, with Beauvais and Stacks at one point claiming that Girardi had been dismissive and rude to her during their marriage, yet in another invoking Girardi while making vague threats to sue Stack. In a word, it was confusing. Legally, things came to a head for Jayne in August of last year when Roland Richards, an attorney representing the trustee overseeing the Girardi bankruptcy case, alleged that Jayne owed Girardi's firm more than $28 million. Jayne's attorney claimed that she doesn't have the money and suggested that she shouldn't be held responsible for it. Like that's even an excuse. So now that Erika has officially been named in the lawsuit, the network for Real Housewives have been subpoenaed. The network, called Bravo, is thought to have hundreds of hours of unaired footage as well as documentary evidence which directly relates to this case. Quote, the victims have had to endure watching the Real Housewives cast do things like eat caviar pie and drink specially made vodka served by white glove staff as they pay lip services to the lives Tom has ruined. Erika's lawyer called the subpoena, quote, another desperation move and pile on directed at Erika. Erika's divorce filing was for legitimate reasons and she has been trying to make it on her own. And so now, weirdly, in a preview for the newest episode of Real Housewives, Erika reflected on her ongoing legal battle and speculated that the victims of the families of the plane crash may be lying about not receiving settlement funds. In the teaser, Erika and her castmates were hunkering down at Kyle Richards' sprawling Palm Springs home, which is the same place Erika was at when the Los Angeles Times released their bombshell expose regarding her ex-husband's alleged crimes in 2021. Quote, when I was here a year ago, it was so crushing and I'm so glad that we've moved past all our When she was asked by a co-star why it seemed like she didn't really care about the victims, Erika replied, quote, when you're in a legal situation like that, every word counts. We're not even sure that there were people that weren't paid. All of her co-stars seemed shocked, and one even asked for clarification if she's accusing them of lying. And Erika replied that she doesn't know, but it's possible. In later confessionals, her co-stars blasted Erika, especially because these are ordinary people and not reality stars. They want their lives to go on. They don't want the clout that comes with dead family members. It's horrifying to even accuse them of that. I personally feel no sympathy for Erika and hope she gets her due comings, but do you think I'm being too harsh? Let us know in the comments down below. While you're down there, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can stay updated when we post our next video. Thank you for watching. I've been your host Sierra. See you next time.